Hey, did you know that even as a minor, we can still be sentenced to capital punishment? It got me to thinking about my stance on the death penalty, and I'm definitely against it. How about you?
Yeah, me too. I don't support it at all.
Honestly, I don't know much about it.
What?
Let us tell you about it. For starters, it is extremely expensive and not even an effective deterrent.
In addition to those reasons, our government has no right to take a life because it is hypocritical to punish murder with murder. If they really wanted to punish the criminal, life imprisonment would be considered worse.
Wow, I didn't know any of that. How does the death penalty relate to our lives, though?
Well, in the case of Stanford v. Kentucky, a 17-year-old minor was put on death row and charged as an adult. This further proves that death row leaves no chance for rehabilitation even for minors who biologically don't have the mental capacity to judge consequences as well as adults.
I can't believe that some of my friends can be put on death row.
Can you imagine if they didn't even do anything wrong and were falsely convicted? One of the flaws of the death penalty is that innocent people have the potential to be executed. Death is an extremely permanent solution that cannot be taken back or fixed.
The suffering for the offender's family must be horrible. Having to watch a family member die would cause extreme grief and distress for their family members and friends.
As philosopher John Hospers explained, justice is individualistic. Since the deserts of individuals differ from one another, so should their rewards and punishments differ from one another. I think that not all criminals are the same. Some can be rehabilitated, some cannot. Since not all people are identical, why should all dangerous criminals be put on death row?
We saw it, the whole nation saw it with Carla Faye Tucker. Is there not any alternative of what we can do as a people other than imitating the violence, freeze-framing people in the worst act of their life and imitating their violence? Isn't there any alternative of what we can do as a society? I've accompanied 4 human beings to execution, 4. To be there in this clean place. A death house is so confusing because it is so clean. We even put alcohol on the person's arm before we inject the needle to kill them. You can't get any cleaner than that with death.
Furthermore, the death penalty is very inhumane. Death row inmates have the choice of deciding between antiquated methods of hanging an electrical chair and the more modern execution method of lethal injection. Although lethal injection is thought to be more humane and less painful in many situations, lethal injections have not worked correctly, which leads to a slow and painful death for the inmate.
Philosopher Albert Camus stated, "There is no proof that the death penalty ever made a single murderer recoil when he had made up his mind, whereas clearly it had no effect but one of fascination on thousands of criminals. Prison officials use secrecy and euphemisms to disguise the executions. This contradicts the idea that the death penalty is an effective deterrent."
Now do you see why we are so against the death penalty?
Yeah, this discussion really helped me to form my own opinion of the death penalty. Although it may seem just for the victims and the families, the downsides to this federal institution definitely outweigh the positive aspects.